Nice shot!
Hello everyone, I am Grayson the Bard, and welcome back to another Monster Hunter video. I have gotten a few build videos under my belt now, and as such, I wanted to try and dip my toes into some more long-form discussion-based Monster Hunter content, because I love this series a lot, and I have many opinions on it. I've got a lot of ideas and topics that I want to eventually discuss, but I don't want to start off with a big multi-hour video essay, although I do believe that is going to come later, so instead I figured I'm going to be starting small with a topic that has been on my mind for many years of playing Monster Hunter. The Raptor monsters deserve better. Throughout the generations of Monster Hunter, starting all the way with Velociraptor back in Monster Hunter 1 and going all the way up to Great Izuchi and Rise, it's been a tradition for the first large monster that the hunter fights being a standard Velociraptor skeleton monster with a little bit of spice added to it depending on what you're fighting. These monsters are usually used to introduce new hunters to the concept of large monsters being faster, more aggressive, and in many cases having different element or status attacks to shake things up when compared to the smaller monsters you've been fighting before. They're never really much of a challenge, but they all have unique behaviors and pretty interesting fights that separate them from the other monster skeleton types in the game. Except for the Velocidrome, Gendrome, and Iodrome trio from the first generation, which are pretty much the exact same fight each time, just with different status ailments attached. Monsters like Great Baggy, who was introduced in Generation 3 of Monster Hunter, and Tsitsiaku, who was introduced in Generation 5, both utilize a kind of hit-and-run tactic with the hunter. They both stay out of range and try and put you to sleep or flash you to stun you, respectively, before closing in for the attack after you have been hit by their ailment. Meanwhile, the Great Jaggy and Great Macau, who were introduced in Generation 3 and Generation 4 respectively, operate in almost the exact opposite way. They are hyper-aggressive and will constantly try and rush the hunter down. Then we have Kuluyaku and Great Izuchi, both of which were introduced in Generation 5 and have probably the most unique fight designs of all the Raptors combined. With Kuluyaku, it shakes up its attack pattern and aggression level depending on what it digs out of the ground. In one instant, it might be holding up a big slab of a rock to use defensively against you, and in the next it might have an explosive blast rock that it's using to try and blow your hunter up. And while most of the Raptor monsters have a group of their smaller monster counterparts that are sticking around during the fight, the Great Izuchi actually weaponizes the small Izuchi, using them to coordinate team attacks, which can deal a lot of damage to an unaware hunter. Each of the Raptor monsters' behavior feels unique in the way that they approach the fight with the hunter, and it really goes to show the attention to detail that the Monster Hunter team puts into their creature design. The problem is that hunters never get to really appreciate that attention to detail or pay attention to these unique behaviors because, with no exceptions, the Raptor monsters in Monster Hunter are painfully easy to fight. As I mentioned at the start of the video, these monsters are always used as kind of training dummies. They are used as an introduction to bigger concepts of Monster Hunter that they're going to see throughout the game. They can teach players about statuses like sleep and poison and how to overcome them. They can teach players how to effectively read a monster's tells and capitalize on the opening that dodging an attack gives them. And in many cases, they can teach you how to use your weapons combos in a low-stakes environment because you're probably not going to cart to these bad boys. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. I've always loved how Monster Hunter introduces new challenges with each monster it introduces, starting with things that are a little easier to get you used to the combat and then slowly ramping things up as the game progresses. I think it's one of the strengths of the series, and I think it makes the learning curve a lot more manageable than if they just threw you in headfirst into the deep end. But in terms of challenge and engaging fights, Raptors definitely got the short end of the stick, and I'm just talking mathematically. As of Title Update 2 in Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, there have been 11 total Raptor skeleton monsters in the mainline Monster Hunter series, all of which appear predominantly in the early hunter ranks between 1 and 3 of their respective ranks, low rank, high rank, master rank, etc. There are no mid to end game Raptors, while other monster-based skeletons all have end game representation. Flying Wyverns have the many different flavors of Rathalos and Rathian, Pseudo-wyverns have Tigrex and Nargacuga and all of their different variants to round out the mid-game and endgame. Brute wyverns have Brachydios and Diablos, and hell, even Piscine wyverns have Lavasioth. And I can count on one hand the amount of people I've engaged with in the Monster Hunter community who actually enjoy fighting Lavasioth. The closest we have ever gotten to a genuinely threatening raptor monster came to us in Monster Hunter World with the Final Fantasy XIV crossover events. In one of those quests, you fight a Kulu-Yaku who has gotten a hold of a crystal from Final Fantasy, and as the fight progresses, you chase the Kulu-Yaku all over Wildspire Wastes as the crystal floods it with its power, making it progressively bigger, faster, and stronger. Towards the end of the quest, and if you're not wearing fully maxed out endgame armor, this Kulu-Yaku could easily one-shot your hunter, and the entire time the Final Fantasy Chocobo theme is blasting in the background. I love this quest. The concept, the choice of monster, the music, the fact that the monster that became a meme to most of the community was now a legitimate threat. It was great, and I wish it wasn't just a one-off joke. Looking at the rest of the Final Fantasy collaboration, the main bread and butter of that whole event was Behemoth. And the second hunters got past Kulu-Yaku and got past the funny little chicken quest and started fighting the big boy, well, I don't know about you, but I kind of forgot about that quest entirely until on a whim I did it again and remembered how much fun it was. Part of that is, admittedly, because I am a big Final Fantasy nerd and I liked hearing the Chocobo theme as I beat up a Kulu-Yaku. It was fun, it was silly, but it was also a challenging fight with a raptor that made you really think about its moveset and how to take advantage of what it was throwing at you. I feel like Monster Hunter has a similar thing to Pokemon, where when you talk to the community, no matter what, every monster is going to be someone's favorite. But if you asked members of the community their top 5 favorite monsters, I can't imagine too many of them are going to be bringing up Great Baggy, or Great Azuchi, or the Velocidromes. And that's because they kinda get forgotten in the early game. For a lot of hunters, their favorite monster is going to be the monster that gave them their first real challenge, or a monster with the most interesting fight design. For me personally, my favorite 2 monsters are Lagiacrus and Duramboros. Lagiacrus because of its aesthetics and fight. It was challenging and fun and made real good use of the underwater mechanics in 3 Ultimates. And God, I really want them to bring underwater back because I would love to fight Lagiacrus again, but that's a topic for another video maybe. And then Duramboros because it was my first wall in 3 Ultimate. I threw myself against Duramboros so much and it gave me such a hard time when I first started playing it. And also, he spin. What's not to like? The closest I've ever came to feeling a similar way to any of the raptor monsters is probably Great Macau from Generations Ultimate, but that's just because it does the cool stuff where it stands on its leg and kicks at you, and it fights in a way that is inherently different from the other raptors. But even then, I kinda forgot about it once I got introduced to Malfestio and the Deviants and all the other monsters that Generations Ultimate threw out there, Mizutsune, Astalos, Glavenus. The 4th one. I'm just kidding, Gameth, I love you too, you'll be back one day. You'll be back one day. All of this is a really roundabout way for me to say that I really want to see a raptor-styled monster in the mid-game, in the end-game of a Monster Hunter game in the future. We are not currently done with the title updates for Rise, so there's a chance, but I highly doubt it. I think if we were going to see a more endgame raptor monster, it would have been a Great Boggy on the Citadel map, but we didn't get that. We didn't even get a Great Boggy, we just have the little guys, and that's a shame too. But I'm not a game designer. Maybe there's a reason that Capcom decided no endgame raptors. Maybe there is some sort of internal discussion that they've been having about consistency in the games, and having the raptors always be just the tutorial monsters, and if that's the case, there's nothing I can really do about that. But I would love to hear what all you think. Would you like to see more endgame focused raptor monsters? I know we got the anomaly investigations in Sunbreak, but even those, the raptors still feel like the easiest things to fight. What kind of moveset would you like to see? What kind of design inspiration? Personally, I think a raptor monster styled after a Theriznosaur with long, scythe-like claws that it uses to rake at hunters could be a fun mid-game threat. And last but not least, just so we can put some respect on the monsters that already exist, what is your favorite Monster Hunter raptor? Let me know in the comments, and if you like this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing if you want to see me do more content like this. Like I said at the top of the video, this is my first foray into more discussion-based Monster Hunter content, but I have plenty of things to talk about, and I would love to hear if y'all want to see it. And last but not least, thank y'all so much for watching. I am Grayson the Bard, and until next time, I'll see you next time.